Algebra 2, this is section 1-6 on probability. There are two different types of probability. There's the experimental probability. Some of you are complaining about my voice, so I'm going to try to get this microphone right up in my, I'm going to hold it in my hand. Hopefully this helps. So the experimental probability, obviously it comes from an experiment. So you're actually going to roll the dice. You're actually going to flip the coin. Um, you're going to count how many times somebody gets a hit out of a certain number of at-bats. But it's an actual experiment. It's not something that's theoretical. The other type of probability that I just mentioned was called theoretical, and it comes from something called the sample space. Now, the sample space would be all the possible outcomes. In the case of rolling a single number die, that would be the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. In the case of flipping a coin, that would be heads and tails, right? In the case of picking a day of the week, it would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Those would be the options. So when we talk about sample space, we're talking about all the possible options. For instance, when I ask a probability question like this one, what's the probability of rolling a 2? Well, the probability of rolling a 2, well, there are 6 numbers on the number die. Remember, this is possible number of outcomes. And there's only 1 2 on the number die. So this would be the number of successes or successful options. So the number 2 only occurs once, so that's where we get a probability of 1 out of 6. Sorry, I'm can't see that too well. So number of successful options over the possible number of outcomes or options. The experiment that I just talked to you about, a baseball player got a hit 21 out of 60 at bats. Find the experimental probability. Well, it's 21 out of 60. There's nothing challenging or unusual about that. 21 out of 60 reduces to 0.35. Now, you can list it as a decimal or you can list it as a percentage. Usually, when we're talking about baseball, they usually round it off to the thousandths place, and they say that the batter is a 350 hitter. Okay, and so that's the decimal 0.35. We are not going to do example 2, so you can skip example 2, and we can go right to example 4. Remember in biology the dominant genes and the recessive genes? Well, if mom has one dominant and one recessive and dad has the same, then we can make one of these charts. I don't know if they call them Punnett squares or whatever they call them. Okay, so we can fill it in and we can find out what the probability is. What's the probability the child will have at least one dominant gene? Well, it looks like 3 out of the 4 categories have a dominant gene. This would be a theoretical probability. This is not an experiment. This would be a theoretical probability. These are all the options in the sample space. So 3 over 4 is the probability of at least one dominant gene. Moving on to example 5. Another type of probability involves area. Okay, for instance, a bullseye, a poorly drawn bullseye. This particular bullseye has a radius of 2. I should say this whole target is a poorly drawn target. The bullseye has a radius of 2, and each ring is width 2 in 2. Doesn't matter what the unit is. And you can see the point totals I've listed here, 2 and 5 and 10. And the bullseye is kind of hard to see. Let me zoom in a little bit. That would be 20. And it's still poorly drawn or seen even at that. Okay, sorry. Whoa, too far. Eventually I'm going to get it. And there we are, kind of. So what's the probability that we get at least 10 points? Well, let's see here. We want the entire area of the whole target. So that would be pi times the radius of the whole thing, 2, 4, 6, 8 units. The area that we're interested in has a radius of only 4 units. So pi times 4 squared. You're going to notice that the pi's cancel out, leaving me 16 over 64, which means there's a 1/4 chance that you will get at least 10 points in throwing at this particular target. So there'll be more target questions and more difficult target questions in the